welcome to Confused Reviews, where Cartoon Drawing reviews movies, and when I tell you to think of a Sylvester Stallone movie, you most likely think of his two most iconic series, Rocky and Rambo. But you see, back in the late 70s, Stallone movies weren't doing too hot with anyone really, and all they wanted was Rocky sequels, which we all know they'd eventually get, but thankfully in 1982 we got an adaptation of a David Morrell novel that would save his career, First Blood. First Blood tells the story of John Rambo, a Vietnam War vet who returns to society just to be bombasted by a town sheriff and must fend off the town's police force as it spirals into an intense action thrill ride of one man surviving against all odds. And ends in an emotional breakdown. And when you think of Rambo, you think of one muscular, bandana-wearing killing machine with a huge machine gun. But this movie is almost like that, but it has more of a survival aspect, and has one thing most action movies don't: heart. Also, this movie received a mixed reception at the time of release, but has grown into a cult classic and a phenomenon known worldwide. So let's take a look back and see if it did save Sly's career and deserved it, or is another disposable action movie that is only worth watching today because of Stallone being in it. This is First Blood. So the film begins on the set of Secret Window, where we see John Rambo, played by Sylvester Stallone, is off looking for the last of his army buddies.
Delmar's gone.
What time will he be back?
Oh, well, judging by that golden reaction, he's probably off getting some milk or something, so I'm sure he'll be back.
He died.
What? Okay, that's the big one. That's the big M.
Yeah, turns out the last of Rambo's buddies died from radiation emitted from Agent Orange, a chemical used prominently throughout the Vietnam War, which was supposedly harmless to humans, even though 25% of the 4 million people exposed to it reported health issues. Totally harmless. John, distraught from the news, wanders into the town of Hope, probably hoping for his luck to turn around. And there's my quarter into the bad pun jar. So sorry you had to hear that. Anyways, Teasle, played by Brian Dennehy, strolls up to him, already being a dickweed.
You know, wearing that flag on that jacket, looking the way you do, you're asking for trouble around here, friend.
Yeah, in our neck of the woods, being a patriotic veteran is strictly off limits. Go fuck yourself.
Now jump in. I'll make sure you head in the right direction, huh?
Yeah, to a kick-ass action movie, am I right? Teasle basically tells John to get out of his town for the sole reason that he's in charge, and drops him off at the edge of the town, but John saw they had a White Castle back there and decides to head back anyway.
May see some ID. Alright, you're under arrest.
Yeah, arrested for something. Serving his country? I don't know.
Hey, try to be nice to some people.
Excuse me, what? This is being nice?
We don't want guys like you in this town.
Yeah, in this line of thinking, Hitler was a real nice guy. We're taken to the police station where we meet Galt, played by the late Jack Serrett, and we head downstairs to get the first of several Vietnam flashbacks. Huh, I've said that a few times on the show, and now they're actually Vietnam flashbacks. Weird. They decide to clean them up and must not know what that means.
Galt, what the fuck was that?
Thought it was funny. They go to shave him, but he has another instance of PTSD and decides enough is enough and starts kicking their asses, and through many, many cops, he gets out of there and acquires a dirt bike and speeds off. I love this opening scene. It shows how idiotic and dickish the police force is, and also shows what John's going through and why he does what he does. It kicks ass. They chase each other for a while until Teasle flips over and Rambo ditches the bike. Unfortunately, he didn't have a chance to run to Burlington Coat Factory during the chase, so he's pretty fucking cold, being that it's winter and all. He quickly fashions a makeshift coat and makes his way into the woods. He eventually runs out of trail, obviously, and decides the only way out is down. He doesn't really make it very far before Galt returns in a chopper trying to kill the guy, but Rambo ain't having it and takes a page out of R. Kelly's survival book.
I believe I can fly. I believe I can touch the sky.
So yeah, Johnny gets all kinds of fucked up from the fall, and Galt continues trying to shoot him, over and over again. He then decides he's had enough of that shit and throws a rock at the helicopter, causing the pilot to jolt and drop Galt right out of the plane.
Shit. Did I leave the stove on?
We then see he's good. Just rub some lotion on his Nah, he's fucking dead. But it does cause Rambo to be equipped with a gun and a jacket. Teasle sees this and is not too pleased. But let's look at this as if I were a lawyer. I mean, John didn't do much to begin with. Teasle fucked with him first, arrested him, Galt abused him and treated like garbage, and when he escaped, he kept fucking shooting at him. Also, the pilot technically killed him for jerking the plane like that. And if we really want to stretch it, Galt probably shouldn't have been hanging out of the plane like that anyway. That's just negligent. So the verdict of Rambo murdering him? Not guilty. Check and mate, Teasle. He's also informed that John's a big-time war vet with a fuck ton of achievements, and hold on a fucking second. Didn't Teasle say some shit earlier about him wearing a flag on his jacket?
You know, wearing that flag on that jacket.
What is that, hypocritical asshole?
Now he's dead. He's dead because of that psycho out there.
No, it's 'cause of you. I'm sure if you would have let him just get something to eat, none of this would have happened. Now, I want you to go to your room and think about what you've done. They continue to search for him and...
Will, come on, let's get out of here before it gets too dark.
What's the matter? You afraid of the boogeyman?
Hey, don't throw shade on my boy Michael Myers like that, dick. John makes a decoy of himself and then shoots Orville, played by John McLeod, and he then does something disappointing. Kills the dog. And Mitch, played by David Caruso, brings up a great point.
We ain't hunting him. He's hunting us.
Yeah, you guys are screwed. A storm begins and they slowly begin searching for the silent, stalking killer in the woods. No, not everything is a horror icon. Jeez. But yeah, that would be pretty cool if it was him. Rambo concludes it's been long enough since he showed that he's in charge and stabs Mitch and books away just in time to jump onto Ward, played by Chris Mulkey. Oh, and for the hell of it, Belford, played by Michael Tabut, gets fucked up in a jigsaw-like trap where he's stabbed in the legs with sharpened sticks. Brutal, but awesome. And because Rambo's just that badass, he pops out to tell Teasle to back off.
Don't push it. Don't push it, I'll give you a war you won't believe.
I'll put you in the Expendables 3. We see the huge crowd of cops they've assembled, and Kern, played by Bill McKinney, is on scene telling Teasle to relax. But no one can do that because Colonel Trautman, played by Richard Crenna, arrives on the scene to explain what Rambo's really capable of, because he made him the fighting machine.
I don't think you understand. I didn't come here to rescue Rambo from you. I came here to rescue you from him.
He gives an awesome speech about how they're royally fucked if they try to keep catching Rambo, and we immediately cut over to the guy catching his dinner. Oh, and can we take a moment to appreciate Trautman?
Are you telling me that 200 men against your boy is a no-win situation for us?
You send that many, don't forget one thing.
What?
A good supply of body bags.
John takes a little siesta in his new hiding place, the mineshaft from the Temple of Doom, and Trautman tries getting a hold of Johnny. They have some banter that shows their friendship, and it flows very naturally, but all I needed to do to get John out was to call Ellis.
Hey, John boy.
Oh shit, Rambo got him too.
They drew first blood, not me.
Hey, that's the name of the movie. The next day, they get a small army en route to get Johnny Boy, and while he's running, he's found by Joseph Gordon-Levitt here, and he heads back to his hideout. Him and the army have a little shootout that leads to a standoff.
What's wrong with you, Clinton?
We've been asking that since the 90s. Sicko. Anyways, they use a rocket launcher to hopefully flush him out, but I don't think they realize that they're dealing with half of Tango and Cash. They think they killed Rambo, but he's just in the cave trying to recreate that one Nicolas Cage movie. He's then attacked by rats like another Indiana Jones movie. There's a lot of coincidences like that. No, they're all just similarities, I'm just kidding. Teasle and Trautman have a meeting where Teasle tries to seem a little bit sympathetic, and they still think that Rambo's toast. He pops out of the hole and sees a bunch of trucks and jumps onto one of them, and then throws one of the guys out. Reminds me of... something. No, that's only 3 similarities. Huh. Moving on. A cop car starts chasing him, but he disposes of it pretty quickly. He then makes his way back to the town and... Huh, sounded a lot like the A-Team, didn't it? Weird. It then turns to night within seconds so that this can look awesome. And it causes a chain reaction, blowing up many cars. While that's going on, Teasle re-explains to Trautman how he's gonna get Rambo this time. But if you couldn't get him when all he had was a knife, why do you think you can now? He's got a huge fucking machine gun. Rambo then realizes he hates saving stores and shoots up the place and then takes out the power. He then heads over to a camping store and tries impressing Michael Bay by catching the store on fire. Teasle then realizes he's fighting a war he can't win and gets shot from below and falls through the roof onto the ground. Right before Rambo pulls the trigger, Trautman intervenes. Rambo isn't content, however, and continues to prepare, but then he starts yelling to Trautman.
And I did what I had to do to win, but somebody wouldn't let us win. And I come back to the world, and I see all those maggots at the airport protesting me, spitting.
Oh, Rambo, if you can only see how shitty protesting is today. John then falls to the ground and starts breaking down. It's a really emotional scene, and Stallone does a great job showing how shitty being in a big war can be. Losing your friends, coming back to a world, not being able to get a job, having no one there for him, and it's one of the best scenes in the movie, and one of the best scenes I've ever seen Stallone act in. And after all that, John emerges from the building with Trautman, and as they're escorted away, the credits roll. And that was First Blood, and it's awesome. For one, and the most obvious thing, Stallone is great in this. Whether silently kicking ass or having an emotional monologue, he elevates this movie with his performance alone. But Brian Dennehy and Richard Crenna are also really good and create a good antagonist and mentor as well. And notice how I didn't say villain. One of my favorite things about this movie is that it doesn't really have a normal action movie villain like Hans Gruber or a supervillain like the Joker. No, the villain of this movie is war itself. It creates this maniac killing machine, and one asshole sheriff sets him off on a rampage. The plot itself is really well done, and the cat and mouse scenario is handled perfectly, and it creates this sense of tension, and the suspense is great, and you are eagerly awaiting Rambo's next attack. The action is shot beautifully, and unlike a lot of modern action movies, it isn't shown in 14 different cuts for a 1-second shot. And also, unlike a lot of Stallone action movies, all of it is realistic, and stuff like Galt falling out of the plane doesn't end with his head exploding or his body becoming a splat on the floor or something ridiculous. The only thing really wrong with this movie is the fact that Teasle is kind of unrealistically angry right from the start with Rambo being in his town. I could get if Rambo came into the town and started scaring people and then told him to leave, but he didn't even make it into the town without being harassed. That's obviously very nitpicky, and overall this movie kicks lots of ass without going over the top, no pun intended, or being too crazy with villains or action. It's everything you could want in a slow-burning action movie, and it's very worthwhile, and I couldn't recommend it more. I'm going to give First Blood an A+, because it's a classic from my childhood that is just as good as the first time I saw it, and with some great performances in action, it creates a near-perfect flick that is one of my all-time favorites. I'm Confused Reviews. Thanks for watching.